Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week 2021. I hope you're all having a great morning so far. Thank you to everyone who is talking in the chat. Welcome everyone who's joining us. We have people from all over the state right now. We have Tulsa and OKC, but I do see some people whose names are from outside of that area. So go ahead and put in the chat. Let us know where you are watching from around Oklahoma as a whole, because we're excited that we are here for this first official, really organized effort at Global Entrepreneurship Week Oklahoma. So I'm so excited that you're all here. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kristin Garcia. I'm your Global Entrepreneurship Week Oklahoma State Coordinator for this current year. I'm really thrilled that I could help to really just bring everyone together. I think after the last few years, if you're an entrepreneur, you maybe have felt a little separated from everything that's happening within the state and in the area. And this is just another method to bring everyone together. We have amazing things happening all over the state of Oklahoma that we want to showcase today in regards to entrepreneurship. What I do full-time is I work for Francis Tuttle Technology Center. I am the startup specialist for our access programs here in the Edmond area. So hopefully what you'll see today is we have a variety of people from all over the area who are excited to share with you about entrepreneurship, how we can network, how we can grow our ecosystem, because as a whole, Global Entrepreneurship Week is impacting over 180 different countries. In 2020, even during the pandemic, there were over 40,000 events. So I'm excited to see what will happen this next year with all of the statistics. This is the first time, as I mentioned, that we're really coming together in the state of Oklahoma. And so when we look at Global Entrepreneurship Week from the aspect of the United States, we have 178 communities who have participated in the past with 440 partners, 1,000 events. And I know that's growing because everybody is working together. So with that being said, I do just want to highlight the energy and excitement that we've had around the state of Oklahoma. We put some little pinpoints here to just show you for Global Entrepreneurship Week, the focus was really in making sure that we are highlighting different things that are happening around the state. The hope is that this will grow more and more as we get more people involved. So I do want to thank a number of our community organizers, which many are in the chat. So one of the things I like to tell people is if you don't think there's something in your area to help with entrepreneurship, there is somebody who is available to assist you with that. So we're in a state where it doesn't take too much to drive from one part to the other. So I hope you can connect with people, whether it's at 36 Degrees North, at the OKC Innovation Hub, with any of our career techs, because we have a number of people who were involved with our career tech system and our universities to be able to connect to the resources that you need locally in your area. So with that being said, in regards to Oklahoma, I know we have Brent Kisling who has joined us on our call today. He is Executive Director of the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. And so he is coming to us with a wonderful recognition for this initiative of bringing everyone together for Global Entrepreneurship Week. So Brent, I will let you take it from here.
Great. Can you hear me all right, Kristen?
Yes, I can.
So very good. Well, I was just looking down through some of the names and see a lot of folks that I know on here. So good. Nobody has their camera on though, so I assume everybody's probably laying in bed or does not have their makeup on or their hair combed yet today. But I've combed mine and glad to see everybody. And I'm happy to be here on behalf of Governor Stitt to help kick off this event today in Global Entrepreneurship Week. As you know, there's Jessica. Appreciate you turning the camera on. As you know, entrepreneurship is huge for Governor Stitt. That's his livelihood. He and I were actually at Oklahoma State University at the same time, and we never knew each other. I was a farmhouse guy, he was a beta, but I never knew him because I was still spending money at college and he was already making money. He had already started his first business over there, and then of course got into the mortgage industry and started Gateway that operates all throughout the United States. So he has been wanting to bring that same mentality to Oklahoma and to the governorship, and we actually have a 6-step strategic plan that's part of what we're doing to try to make Oklahoma's economy top 10 in the nation. And it includes things like having a consistent brand and targeted recruitment and taking care of our own workforce development and making sure all of our communities are growing all across the state. But one of those key 6 items is creating a culture of innovation where folks are actually looking to start their own businesses. So I know you're going to be talking about that today, and I will let you get to the other speakers, but the governor did provide a proclamation. Looks just like this. Yeah, there's a copy of it. I'll read through it. Whereas entrepreneurs are the core source of innovation and employment, and whereas Oklahoma's economic future is dependent on entrepreneurs, and whereas Oklahoma's ability to compete in the global economy is dependent on the development of success of entrepreneurs, and whereas entrepreneurship provides a job creation engine that has a significant impact for the state of Oklahoma, and whereas success in entrepreneurship requires knowledge, risk, skill, and support from the state of Oklahoma, now therefore I, Governor J. Kevin Stitt, do hereby proclaim November 8th through the 15th, 2021 as Entrepreneurship Week in the great state of Oklahoma, signed by Brian Bingman and Governor Stitt. So congratulations to all of you that are in that space and helping us to grow that space. And with that, Kristen, I will turn the program back over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the Department of Commerce and the team with the state for declaring this Entrepreneurship Week with the state of Oklahoma. We're really excited about the partnership. And really, as we think of Global Entrepreneurship Week, policy and governmental connections is a huge element of that for entrepreneurs. So thank you so much, Brent, for joining us today. All right, so next we are going to go over to our amazing keynote speaker. I'm really excited to bring Dr. Dell Gines here. He is the lead community development advisor for the Federal Bank of Kansas City. And you might think, why Kansas City? Why do we have somebody? Well, Dr. Gines is constantly working with people throughout our United States on the different initiatives. I do want to highlight that he is a thought leader in entrepreneurship ecosystem building, a local economic development strategy that leverages entrepreneurship power to create local economic impact and growth. And so we've really been utilizing that word of our ecosystem and our entrepreneurial ecosystem, which you are all a part of. And so we're very excited to welcome you to the virtual stage.
Great. Let's see, can everybody see me okay? Am I good?
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna try to share the screen, but I've had problems with my dual screen monitor in the past. So you all have to be my litmus test as to whether this works out correctly or not. Let's see. All right, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Is it the full PowerPoint?
It is, we do see the full slide.
Okay, you see the full slide. Gotcha. All right, great. All right, let's get started. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about entrepreneurship in Oklahoma, as a general rule. And then we're going to, dig a little deeper into a few things. But here's the benefit, and I said this on Facebook this morning when I told people I was going to be doing this today. The great thing about doing the kickoff is you don't have to be deep. You just have to be exciting, because I'm sure many of you went to conferences and they try to start it off and they get this keynote speaker and it's like the most boring person that you've ever seen. And then all of a sudden they set the tone for the conference and the speakers after them have to come around and re-engage the energy. Well, I'm not that guy. So I did not try to, address the metaphysical reality of the universe in this and all of the multiple facets of entrepreneurship being ecosystem building. Instead, it's going to be a very straightforward conversation talking about why you should support and celebrate entrepreneurs in Oklahoma. So that's my mission over the next 20 minutes. And I'm going to try to stick to it as best as possible. So are you seeing the slide? I just want to double check this to make sure I'm not talking without you seeing what I'm saying. Do you see the Kansas City Fed slide and the Federal Reserve System slide now? Okay, perfect. So we are on the same page. So Kristen said, well, why in the world would somebody from the Kansas City Federal Reserve Bank be here with you today? Besides the fact that I think Oklahoma is pretty awesome, and I get down there quite a bit because of our work. We, as the central bank of the United States, have a responsibility to ensure that the economy is really strong and healthy and working for everyone. On this slide, you can kind of see the things that we're responsible for at the bank level. So I'm not going to belabor a lot of those points, but one of the purposes of the regional bank system and the 12 banks that we have, along with the board, is that because we're regional, we want to understand what is really going on within our respective communities. So within our 7 states, it's really roughly half of Missouri. Then you have Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas, about half of New Mexico, Colorado, and then Wyoming. So that's ours. So we pretty much make up the middle of the country. And the things that we face while connected to, like, let's say the East and the West Coast, often are dramatically different. And it's often even different within region. For example, as you know, Oklahoma is heavy on energy. I'm from our Omaha branch and we're heavy on corn, even though our football team is terrible. So we might want to change the name to something else than Cornhuskers at this point. But that's a story that I don't want to get into this morning. So as the central bank and our president, Esther George, remarkable leader, I encourage you, if she ever does an economic forum in Oklahoma City, that you all attend. She really wants to know what we go through, what we feel, what our rural and urban communities feel within our district, so that when she goes to the Board of Governors, she can make sound monetary policy decisions with our interest in mind. And that's the importance. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here with you today. But I want to drill down a little more specifically into the branch that you have in Oklahoma City down there. We have an outstanding branch executive who's Chad Wilkerson, who's the vice president and economist and branch executive, who engages a lot around the community of Oklahoma. We have a great, and I'm going to show you this in a second, and along with the link, a great thing called the Oklahoma Economist, in which he routinely looks at the business issues and economic issues that are facing Oklahoma. He focuses a lot on energy, and we also have a local branch board specific to the Oklahoma City branch, which takes leaders from all around the state to kind of inform the decisions at the local level. So if you have not connected with Chad, I encourage you to connect with Chad. And these are kind of some of the things that are actually on our Kansas City Fed website, Oklahoma City page. A lot of different things. Another one I'm going to talk to you that's in the context of this presentation, like where are all the workers? What's going on with energy, the centennial? Then, of course, I put my colleague and friend, and who many of you know, up there, Steve Shepowich, who's my peer down in Oklahoma City, who's your direct connect into some of the work that you're going to hear today. So if you want to check out all of that, I encourage you to go to kansascityfed.org. And so that's kind of my advertisement now before we get into the topic. Now, I see Evan on there for sure, who was in our recovery community, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But one of the things he knows when I came down there and we talked about this concept of the appreciative question, See, and here's the difference. Like most of the time when we want to solve a problem, we start with the problem. Well, our entrepreneurs don't have access to capital. Our entrepreneurs don't have, high quality mentors, or whatever challenge that you want to face. Our rural population is seeing that out migration, and we're struggling with economic development. Like we frame it from that way. But the power of the appreciative question, and the question that I want you to kind of keep in mind throughout this presentation, and actually throughout the rest of Global Entrepreneurship Week in Oklahoma, is this. The primary question is, what would Oklahoma be like if it had the strongest support system for entrepreneurs in the region? Have you ever really thought about that? Like, the power of the appreciative question is that it switches a trigger in your mind from kind of this problem, negative framing, to, this creative state, this creative condition in your mind, where now you're starting to kind of create these visions. What would it look like? So in your mind, this is the thing that I want you to kind of frame this weekend, is what if we wanted Oklahoma over the next decade to have the greatest entrepreneurship support system within the Midwest? What would it look like? The sub questions that I put up there, because it is centered on entrepreneurship. Now I have to have a caveat. It's amazing. So I've been working with entrepreneurs for over 25 years in some capacity or another. And it's amazing how often we leave what entrepreneurs need, want, or desire out of the conversation when it comes to serving entrepreneurs. We don't ask them, we rarely engage them, we don't do focus groups, and we just say, oh yeah, somebody said they need some money for their business, so that's what we're going to do. But how would your entrepreneurs feel if Oklahoma had the best support system in the Midwest? How would they perform? What would the economy of Oklahoma be like if that was there? Like, ask yourself these questions, frame it, just think about what would go into creating that, because that's your grand vision for those of you that are serious about entrepreneurship in Oklahoma. Now, there's a reason for this, because it's easy to say, well, okay, that's great. That's a great question. It gets me into this kind of creative space. It gets me thinking aspirationally about, wow, these things that we could, should, and maybe will do within Oklahoma City, but why are we focusing on entrepreneurship in the first place? Well, from a global perspective, it's about something called small business dynamism. So back in 2012, Brookings came out with a report that showed that for one of the first times in modern American history, more businesses died out than were created. And that's called business dynamism. It's the rate at which businesses are started and the rate at which they die out, leave, exit, retire, fail, whatever you want to call it. And Oklahoma's not without that exception. So annually, our bank facilitates what is called a Jacksonville Symposium in Wyoming. And in the symposium, our president, Esther George, invites all of these monetary policy leaders, these central bank leaders from all around the world to come and talk about what these global issues are that are facing the economies around the world. And in 2017, they convened this in Jackson Hole, which is kind of this rural, rustic place, again, in Wyoming. And one of the primary things that came out of that was that global small business dynamism and the lack of dynamism, the lack of more firms being born than died, is a global economic challenge. So when we look at a chart like this within Oklahoma, and we kind of see that really, for the most part, it's been flat. And when we look at what has happened within the pandemic, in 2020, now we know there's going to be a rebound, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. One thing we know about entrepreneurs is they trend to be resilient. We also know that after the post-pandemic that we've seen more, at least business filings than we've seen at any time recently of people considering starting businesses. But when we look at up through 2020, and this is from a great website called youreconomy.org. If you ever want to look at business data, you can go and look at your major metropolitan areas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. You can also look at it by county. But what they showed is that there's this stark contrast that was going on in Oklahoma City, where it was pretty much flat. Businesses that were born equaled out to businesses that died. And then in the pandemic, it really kicked it up a notch. So when I talk about it's time to celebrate and support our entrepreneurs, one of the reasons is because we know it's been very clear that 2020 and the pandemic was a very, very, very challenging time for them. And it's a challenging time, both from the business pressures that the pandemic created, but also the mental toll that it takes to go through a pandemic where people are getting sick. If you're a family business owner, I mean, put yourself in their shoes. You're a family business owner, and one of your loved ones gets COVID, and they have to be quarantined, and maybe they're sicker than they normally would be. So you have to try to figure out how to run this business in the same time that your family members are ill. And oftentimes one of the things that we don't do within our entrepreneurial environment, our economic development environment, or communities, is actually say, you know what, we appreciate your service as small business owners. We appreciate the risk that you take. We appreciate what you mean to our communities. We appreciate the things people you employ, and we appreciate the risk that you take. And that's why I'm excited for Kristen's opening conversation about doing this in a more coordinated fashion, because it's sending a signal to your entrepreneurs that we appreciate you, we want to celebrate you, and we want to figure out a way to support you. And I promise I don't have a lot of charts, but since I'm from the Fed, it's kind of mandatory that I put at least 3. So in this chart, what I wanted to do is kind of show you where the size of the establishments were. So I'm sure everybody remembers when everybody wanted the Amazon, headquarters, because they're like, hey, give us $3 billion and we'll drop $40,000 jobs in your lap, or 40,000 jobs in your lap. And everybody was competing for, Amazon. Even small rural communities with only 400 people were like, let me put an Amazon proposal package in because we may get lucky. Like, what is this 400 member town population going to do with Amazon? It's not going to happen. But Amazon had everybody out of the woodwork. But here's the reality. And most people who are in economic development or from the outside looking in and just want a healthy community, they think it's always these major businesses that are driving all of this. But the reality is that most businesses are small or medium size. So within this chart, it's kind of showing you, if you look at that blue line, roughly 65% of all businesses in Oklahoma have 10 or less employees. And if you add the red line to it, which is your small business, small and medium sized businesses up to 99, now you're talking about close to 80 plus percent, 80 to 85% of every single business in Oklahoma is a small business. So it's a different narrative when you look at the total numbers and you say, well, yeah, that's okay, but Amazon, they're going to bring 40,000 jobs, right? So we need to get that Amazon. And I'm not saying that an intelligent a city that it fits and it makes development sense, that they shouldn't potentially try. What we're talking about is the allocation of time, energy, and attention within what they're doing within economic development. And oftentimes our entrepreneurs are under supported when it comes to that. Like I go out and tell everybody, one of the best quotes that I ever heard was from the former mayor of Kansas City, Kansas. And he said, when it comes to big businesses, we roll out the red carpet. And when it comes to small businesses, we roll out the red tape. And so when we look at this from the standpoint of where the jobs are coming from, you start to see a very similar scenario. So I'm hopefully reinforcing to you the importance of our entrepreneurs, the importance of our small business community. So when we look at it as a percentage, small and medium-sized employers maintain 40% of all the new job or all the jobs within Oklahoma. And when you add in the small businesses, now you're roughly 60% of all the jobs in Oklahoma are pretty much done by small businesses, depending on how you classify what a small business is. But for sure, we know that roughly 60% plus of all jobs are maintained by businesses that have 10 or 100 or less employees. So we're not, the big businesses, they are important. They're important for a variety of reasons. You're never going to hear me take away from the impact that major corporations can have on economies within the whole state. We see that, and there's a lot of other effects that they provide too. But we cannot underestimate the importance nor the power of our small businesses. And so I want to take a minute to talk about Black Wall Street, up there in Tulsa. Well, I should say for me, it's down there. So down there in Tulsa, Greenwood, Oklahoma. It's interesting. So me and Chad, branch executive, wrote when we were doing our research to write an article for the Fed. We wrote an article during the commemoration back in May on the 100 year of the race massacre in Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I'm doing this research, and as a Black guy, I had heard from around the community. People say, "Oh, we want to be the next, Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Oklahoma." And as somebody that's in the field, I looked at it from afar, and I said, "This is phenomenal." All around the nation, you go to Black communities, they talk about Black Wall Street, but I never spent the time to research it deeply until this article. And here's what is interesting. This was the lessons learned. So for those of you who don't know, Black Wall Street became the symbol of Black economic success in the United States back then and today within a 15-year period of time. And I'd never contextualized this. So O.W. Gurley came up from Perry, Oklahoma, and bought 40 acres in Tulsa in 1906. 1921 was when it was destroyed. So in 15 years, we're not talking about 30, 40, 50 years, we're not talking about 100-year, strategic planning or urban planning. We're talking about within 15 years, it went from nothing in the ground to being celebrated as the most vibrant Black economic community. Now, what are the lessons that we can learn in general? We're not talking about diversity and inclusion here. We're talking about in general from that particular environment. And I just distilled it down into a couple things. The appropriate economic environment, the appropriate policy, and entrepreneurial energy. Originally, it had swagger, entrepreneurial swagger, because, good entrepreneurs, they have a level of swagger to them. They're like, you got to, because you're looking at a world of risk and potential rewards. But let's stick with entrepreneurial energy to sanitize it for the Fed, right? So so you combine these things in any given community where you allow people to see what potential economic opportunities are available. In the case of Black Wall Street, it was the emergence of oil in Tulsa, and Tulsa began to grow. And Gurley was like, I can look at this and I can see the opportunities. So he saw the opportunities, and then he was able to pull people around him by great policy. He was able to access land and other factors that came in. But it was his energy that applied to those two in the recipes, two that made the whole recipe to create this dramatic impact that we're still talking about today, and not in 2021, 100 years later. Now, I do want to talk a little bit before we close about this concept of inclusivity, because inclusivity is an absolute necessity. I go around saying you cannot be a good entrepreneurship ecosystem builder if you're not looking at how you include individuals of all different backgrounds and places. Now, most people, when they talk about inclusivity, tend to focus on things like race, ethnicity, and gender, which I do as well. Let's not get it twisted. But I also focus on place, because I spent the first 5 years of my career at the Fed going into all of these rural communities around our region, talking to them about how to organize their ecosystems to better use entrepreneurship to support their development crisis, because most of them are in it. So when we talk about including, we have to look at it from a multidimensional lens. We have to consider things like age. Most people don't know. The average age of a successful tech founder is not that guy, that kid in skinny jeans and penny loafers that's come in right out of high school and starting an app. The average age of a successful tech founder is early to mid 40s. The average age of a successful biotech business founder is early 50s. But what is our communities doing to support our older and senior entrepreneurs? What is our communities doing to ensure that women have an adequate shot and are socialized into opportunities that also allow them to do different types of business than your status quo business? We can go race, gender, you can add it all in. So the concept of place, making sure that our rural communities are adequately supported, which takes a little bit different strategy than your urban areas. This is more regional, more connected through different sources than maybe our urban, which may be able to pull more resources together. So how do we do this? This has to go into that original question that I asked you of what would the support system in Oklahoma City look like? Now, as I'm winding down, I do want to say something cool, and I'm not going to tell you what they're working on. I don't know if the group wants to yet, but I was down there in Oklahoma City a couple months ago doing something called Recovery Community Training. And the great Mariana Adams, who's the executive director of Progress OKC, pulled this phenomenal group together. I see a couple people on there on this call to really say, can we collaborate deeply on a particular project to address the challenges that some of our entrepreneurs of color may face to build out that ecosystem? And so we were down there, and so they're doing something really cool. And while I'm not going to say everybody needs to go through what we did, was essentially what is called a strategic doing process, which actually was first launched in Oklahoma City and helped create the first MAPS program there, if you're familiar with that. But everybody should be thinking about, how do we collectively pull our resources together, pull our energy, our mind, our talents and treasures together to focus on the critical needs within the support system, if that is our visionary aspirational goal that we talked about. And so as I conclude, I want to leave you with a few other things that we have at the Fed that can take you a little bit deeper on this. So these are all on there. I'm not going to go over them all, but the first one that I ever wrote was the Grow Your Own Guide. So for those of you that want to easy read, 13 pages, feel free to grab that. It gives you a basic overview of entrepreneurship ecosystem building, all the way through the things on women, things on Black women, things on communities of color, things on just general recovery as well. And kind of before I close out, I just want to leave you again with the question, because I can only encourage you to think about framing your development system and your support of entrepreneurs from this lens. What would Oklahoma be like if it had the strongest support systems for entrepreneurs in the region? I really want you to think about this. How are you connecting with other people? How are you ensuring rural areas have access, because they need support as well? How are those that are in one room communicating to those that are in another room that often don't get heard? All of those go into this vision. And I think, and I love the proclamation from the original Brent, the original gentleman, and I love the support, but we need more than a plaque. We need more than a platitude. We need people that are willing to bring the Midwestern values of civic engagement, mutual support, belief in each other together, and focus them in this area. Because at the end of the day, the strength of your entrepreneurs are ultimately going to drive your economy, and not just in terms of employment, GDP growth, but in issues like economic equity, community-based placemaking, revitalization of rural communities. And so I just want to leave you with that as you go into the week, because I'm at my time, and leave you with myself and Steve's contact at you. We're an open door. I know Steve is an Oklahoma boy through and through. I like to go regional. Steve is like, if I could stay in Oklahoma, that's what I would do. So, he always has your back down there. And I, of course, can support you on the entrepreneurial front as well. And as well as you can reach out to Chad and participate in our other events. And so with that, I want to invite you to have a great Global Entrepreneurship Week in Oklahoma. I'm really excited for what you're trying to do there. And I look forward to getting back down there with you all as soon as I can. So I'll turn it back over to Kristen.
Thank you so much, Dell. We really appreciate it. Maybe we can get some emoji claps or something in our chat. I thought it was really interesting. We did have someone ask a question in the chat of what's the plan going forward for small businesses. And I think you kind of wrap that up in the sense that it's about all of us working together to figure out what your needs are. So I don't have your name. This is Galaxy S8. But I'd love for you to connect with any of us here on this chat to see how we can help you, because I think you have a variety of entrepreneurs on this call, ecosystem builders, partners, organizations. And the nice thing about Oklahoma, and I think you mentioned this in the idea of the Midwest culture, is you're really just one or two people away from the person who has the right information for you. So I think the biggest thing I can say based on your keynote is everyone just remember, just ask for help because we're here to help you. And I think sometimes we don't go to the entrepreneurs to tell you that as much as we need to. And I think that's a goal that we can all work on moving forward, is really getting in front of our entrepreneurs. So thank you again, Dell, so much. Everyone, I put some of the link to his publications that he mentioned. That also takes you to his site. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Okay, so we'll get now back to a little bit more Oklahoma focus for everybody. So let me go ahead and get my screen back up. So I'm playing not only MC, but production at the moment. So all right, so can everybody see my screen again about sharing our entrepreneurship stories? Awesome. So what I want to do is just share a quick note from our Global Entrepreneurship Network to welcome everybody to Global Entrepreneurship Week. And then we're going to get into a little bit of sharing of the stories of our entrepreneurs from just some general highlights and videos, and then a perspective from our friends at 36 Degrees North.
Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week 2021, with 200 nations hosting national campaigns to inspire more of their citizens to consider the path of entrepreneurship. We'll hear from celebrity entrepreneurs like Sir Richard Branson, inspiring more young people to follow in their footsteps. And we'll hear from corporations like FedEx, who are helping to make it possible for some of those left behind communities to participate in this great entrepreneurial renaissance. And whether or not it's cities like Kansas City hosting hundreds of events, or whether it's individuals reaching out across national boundaries on Zoom to collaborate, we're going to see a lot of work underway in trying to tackle and experiment with addressing the big challenges of the world. And while we have big challenges, GEW this year is aligned with COP26, the climate change conference, but naturally beyond big issues like that, the world also faces recovering from this pandemic. We hope to reboot, rethink, and regenerate our economies as a result of taking a global approach to how we can build back our societies in a better way, make them more inclusive, more equitable, and indeed ones that leverage the power of their entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs is what this week's campaign is going to be all about. They're the ones we're going to be shedding the spotlight on. We are going to be releasing the information about the top 25 entrepreneurs in the world emerging from our Entrepreneurship World Cup competition. Very, very exciting. We had 200 countries participate and 100,000 entrants, so look out for that. You know, entrepreneurs are perfectly made for this era. They're comfortable with uncertainty. They're comfortable with the lack of predictability. They don't mind. In fact, they thrive when someone sets the reset button and someone shakes up and changes all the rules, because it means all of a sudden there's lots more experimenting to be done, teams to be formed, solutions to be tested, and opportunities to be explored. So we hope you'll be part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. Go to GEW.co, find an activity in your community. If you can't find what you're looking for, join us on social media at hashtag GEW 2021. Thank you and happy Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Brian Metter. I run a company called Plant Seeds. We are based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a passion project. I lived in New York for a long time, and living out there in kind of this urban center, it becomes very apparent that, well, there's two things that happen. Number one, there's just way too much plastic in the world. Single-use plastic is ubiquitous, no matter where you go, but especially in a place like New York. It really becomes an issue when you start to talk about landfills and that kind of thing, and how this plastic eventually finds its way to the ocean. So that was definitely an issue that I saw. On a more personal level, you know, I was born and raised in Tulsa, and coming from this leafy environment, you know, I really enjoyed a certain connection with nature. And I was not able to get that in New York City at all. So how do you square those things? My best answer was to create a vertical gardening planter that's made out of recycled plastic, manufacture it here in the US, and kind of take advantage of this waste stream, which could be, you know, reimagined, and use that waste in kind of a creative way to reimagine parts of our urban infrastructure. So these vertical gardening planters are specifically designed to work on chain link fences, but they can really go anywhere, from brick to drywall to masonry, you name it. So, so yeah, that's a bit about who I am, my company, and why I'm doing this. I started the business in New York, and you know, honestly, I was a little, I was curious. I was a little concerned how things would be received here in Oklahoma, but it has been a warm welcome through and through. I've been astounded by the entrepreneurial resources that are available here through organizations like 36 Degrees North and I2E, and I mean, there's just an incredible sense of community and fellowship within the entrepreneurial community in Tulsa in particular. So that's really been fantastic. But to zoom out a little bit, I've had a great experience working with you know, members of the local government here. The recycling team is, you know, on they're at the top of their game, and very willing to have conversations with people like me who are interested in partnering to make that system even more efficient. So it's been a great homecoming for sure. I'm really excited about this one because this is advice that I wish that I had a long time ago. But it's never going to get easier. There's never going to be a right time. You just got to start. And you will always wish that you had started sooner. So if you've got a kernel of an idea, something that you just can't shake, just go for it, you know. And that doesn't mean go and run and quit your job immediately. But pursue that passion, you know, because there's really something very magical about pursuing your dreams in that way, and yeah, incredible things happen. So.
All right. So just two quick videos
Brian
to talk
Metter,
about what's happening in our ecosystem. Sorry about that. And hopefully you, again, recognizing that this is more about our entrepreneurs and maybe those of us who work with entrepreneurs. And I'm glad our friend Galaxy S8, because I still don't know who you are, is asking questions. I know I sent you my email as a direct message, so please feel free to reach out. We had Brian from Tulsa share a little bit about his story with plant seeds, and I wanted to share a little bit about 3 other entrepreneurs, more of our rural area. As Dell was talking about, we focus a lot sometimes on Oklahoma City and Tulsa and even Norman and Stillwater because of the universities, but wanted to highlight a couple of our entrepreneurs throughout the state in our more rural areas. So in Enid, we have Brady Sidwell, who has started Chisholm Trail Milling. And so the whole purpose is having more 100% local grain that is turned into the flour that you may need to bake the breads and items that you want to bake. The value of having the small businesses start in our area is so important to that economic development that we talked about, but also just that integrity of our local communities. So wanted to give a shout out to Brady. So check out Chisholm Trail Milling on Facebook if you have an opportunity, just to let them know, hey, we've heard about your business. Also wanted to point out Kristen Gentry, Creative Native is her business, and she was recognized as a semi-finalist for the U.S. North American region for her powwow pitch. And so I just wanted to highlight the moves she's making within the Indigenous community with her visual arts, her arts education, and also a number of other creative aspects that she's working on, to include the First Americans Museum in Oklahoma City that she's helped to contribute to. So Kristen, I hope you continue to do amazing strides within the Owasso and Choctaw communities, but also in the whole state of Oklahoma. And also we have Narish, who is with Breathify USA out of Ada. And so Breathify is a business that was created with some friends and partners in India. He now is in Ada, Oklahoma, and is basing a US element of his 3D printed air filter system. And he really wants to focus on re-energizing indigenous manufacturing in our US. And so his product is already up and available for purchase. So he's really looking at reducing that cost that comes with air filtration and the filters, as those get really expensive. And so I hope with these 3 highlights of entrepreneurs throughout our state, you recognize that when we talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about everyone who is up and running a new business. So now I would like to turn it over to Abbey over at 36 Degrees North in Tulsa. I'm not sure if you're in your office or if you're out in the main area or not. And so I will let you talk a little bit about what you do and the entrepreneurs that you work with.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. So I am hiding away in the office, and we have this virtual live stream happening in our community area at Base Camp. So we are so excited to be a part of Global Entrepreneurship Week this week here in Oklahoma. And thank you, Kristen, for all of the work that you've done to rally all of the troops and make this one of the most, it feels like, in-depth and educational content we've had for Global Entrepreneurship Week across our state in a really long time. Also want to thank my co-organizer here in Tulsa, Jamie Lupin, who has decked out our space with amazing balloons and decorations and some local nonprofit snacks, as well as just an amazing lineup here in Tulsa that we're really excited about, highlighting all of our amazing partners. 36 Degrees North is a nonprofit that would not be here without all of our partners. And I think we have like 15 in Tulsa that are highlighted this week alone. And then on top of all of the partners that are highlighted across Oklahoma, it's really cool to see us on the leaderboard for Global Entrepreneurship Network, and then also just being and doing really supportive things for entrepreneurs here in our state. My name is Abbey Marino. I'm the Director of Programs here at 36 Degrees North. And my background is from the Ronnie K. Arani Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth, leading community programs for entrepreneurship. And through that, I was able to work one-on-one with founders and facilitate some entrepreneurial curriculum and workshops, which led me to join the 36 Degrees North team in May, really with the main function of building the 36 Degrees North incubator program for scaling companies. So Dell and Brent both talked about the importance of entrepreneurship and economic development, and we cannot agree more. Part of why we launched this incubator program is because we saw the need for entrepreneurial stories to be highlighted in statewide economic development efforts. And as Dell was saying, so many of our businesses are small teams, but you can't cut a ribbon in front of a small team of 3 or 4 people working together. So large spaces that combine all of these entrepreneurs under one roof are really helpful to get to highlight entrepreneurial activity in media and across the state as far as all of the work that we get to do. So we have 3 different locations. Our first 2 are full of amazing solopreneurs and self-employed consultants, as well as a whole entire crew of remote workers through our partners with Tulsa Remote. And we started to notice that within our membership, there were these venture-backed high-growth tech companies that were growing and scaling within our building, but we weren't able to really pull them out and provide them with the community and the resources that a scaling venture-backed company needs. So we were able to create this incubator program for scaling companies that we opened in July, thanks to local and national funders, sponsors, partners, an amazing board, and an amazing 36 Degrees North team right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are at 70% capacity after only 5 months. And the incubator standard is to be at about 30% capacity after about a year. So we just see this as proof that Tulsa and Oklahoma's entrepreneurial ecosystem is launching and scaling quickly, and that we're beyond ready for resources that other cities, bigger cities, more entrepreneurial states or areas like Austin or Silicon Valley, the resources that they have, we are ready for them too. And we are launching and growing entrepreneurs rapidly and effectively as well. So our membership includes over 37 high growth, scalable tech companies that are launching and growing out of Tulsa. Many of those are our own members, but several of them are members of a couple of different programs and venture capital firms that are running out of the incubator as well. We do have 10 resource providers, including venture capital funds and workforce development programs and accelerators, all running out of the same area. Our incubator program includes accountability check-ins, expert office hours, professional development sessions, and an amazing mentor network that our founders have access to. And this is why companies that go through incubator programs are about 75% more likely to succeed than companies that do not. Compliant companies within our incubator program receive a 10-year state income tax exemption too, and we're really thankful to our Department of Commerce representatives and supporters who have helped us provide all of these amazing perks and benefits to our founders. And then we're a part of the NBIA Oklahoma chapter too. So we're able to learn and grow alongside all these other amazing incubators that are doing the same thing that we're doing in other locations across the state. So we're really proud to be a part of this network in Oklahoma. But more so than talking about the incubator and what we do, I want to talk through some of our company highlights. That photo of Zero actually was updated, it looks like probably before we refreshed this, Kristen. So little funny joke between Jim and I, but there is a team photo of the Zero team and all that they're doing here in town. But a couple of these companies that are within the 36 Degrees North Incubator Program include Remble. And Remble is a company, they're raising their first funding round, but this is a female-founded tech company right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you for updating that, Kristen. And the founder the non-technical founder is Jordan. She's the CEO and she has a background in mental health counseling. And then Ron is the technical founder, the CTO, who was working with consumer affairs and then another company called, I'm completely blanking on the name right now, but he was working with another tech company that was launching out of 36 Degrees North. And he just came onto the Rumble team to help Jordan create a platform where mental health clients can access some on-demand coaching and curriculum to help them through some tough moments. So she tried a couple of those online platforms to offer some on-demand courses and services to her clients and realized that all of the features that she wanted, including online therapy, self-guided courses with a community feature, she couldn't have all of those under the existing platforms. So now Rumble is building their own platform to provide access to mental health and self-help online on demand through a subscription-based model. Our other company here, Zero, they are a marketplace for scheduling procedures like MRIs and ultrasounds, serving self-insured employees with 50 to 5,000 employees. It's a health plan that's easy to understand and use, and they are designed to deliver. They have some really huge wins recently. They actually just signed the largest health plan customer in the history of the business, and they were able to add roughly 400,000 new plan members, increasing their revenue by 3x and adding 7 to 10 new geographic markets. They have proven product market fit with over 130 active employer health plan customers. And they prove that people will use the product with over $20 million in gross merchandise volume in 2021. And they continue to deliver the best user experience in healthcare with a net promoter score of 94. So they are taking a really complex machine like our healthcare system, and they're trying to make it low cost, affordable, and easy to access by coming in and connecting those providers to employees for a zero cost healthcare experience. They are scaling pretty quickly. They are one of our larger companies in the incubator program with about 30 to 35 employees, and they are hiring pretty quickly. But again, these two are only 2 of our 25 incubator companies from all across topics like interior design tech, fintech, text message marketing, social media platforms, and all of these companies have created over 160 jobs in Oklahoma already. This is contributing to the larger number of 1,500 jobs that 36 Degrees North members have created in Oklahoma in the last 4 years. But again, they're helping us to tell the story that entrepreneurship creates economic development and makes amazing impact here in town. So it's great to bring in those large companies like the Teslas and the Amazons, but economic development wouldn't be what it was without people on the ground, starting small and building up their teams from local talent. Kristen, if you want to go to the next slide. I also wanted to highlight some of our partner companies. So within the 36 Degrees North membership, we also have some resource providers, and one of those is I2E, and they launched an accelerator for Black and Brown founders called Act Tulsa. This is, again, taking the spirit of Black Wall Street and creating a really inclusive ecosystem here in town that leaves nobody behind. So Act Tulsa's accelerator is a 6-month program with 3 months focused on incubation and 3 months focused on implementation. They also provide $70,000 of non-dilutive capital to all of the founders that go through their program. And just this year, through their first cohort, they were able to support 9 local businesses, 6 of which were already acting here in Tulsa, 3 of whom moved to Tulsa for this program. And that is across 17 founders whose lives they've impacted and who they've supported as they've gone on through their entrepreneurial journey. So one of those members is a company called Cadenzo. We are extra proud of Cadenzo because Andreas and Mark, 2 of the co-founders, are previous members of our team. Andreas was an intern a couple years ago, and Mark just transitioned away from a full-time role at 36 Degrees North into full-time co-foundership for Cadenza, which is a platform that connects artists with venues and venues with artists. They're solving a major problem in the local music booking industry, where in order for venues to connect with artists, they're calling, texting, DMing on Instagram, and losing track of all the different people they've connected with, which results in shows being really complicated to book or bookings falling through based on some communication deficits. So they've recently secured a partnership with Mercury Lounge, who is incredibly excited about this new solution and ready to be their advocate. And they're actually so excited about this that they're hosting their launch party on November 13th. So Cadenza is booking shows. They will be featured in Global Entrepreneurship Week on Friday here in Tulsa. They booked an artist for our wrap party at Mother Road Market. And they're trying to change the game in local artists booking with venues. And so far they have an amazing amount of traction. I also want to highlight Bottle Learning. If you live in Oklahoma, it's probable that you've heard of these amazing founders and the work they're doing to transform math through a K through 6th grade game that makes learning fun, specifically that makes math fun, which is a really hard thing to do. But Bottle already has over 400,000 students on their platform, and they just closed a $1.35 million seed round. And some of their investors include Pharrell Williams, who has a national Black Ambition Fund, and then also the Google startup $100,000 Black Founder Grant that they received. So Bottle has an amazing traction. Part of the Act Tulsa cohort, they've helped them a lot. The Bottle team is growing and hiring quickly. And again, we're just so proud to have all of these people within our workspace and within our membership, just proving that tech companies can be grown and launched here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have the resources, the mentorship, and the people who are willing to connect and support these companies. And we are so proud to continue to tell their stories. Cadenza and Bottle are just 2 of the 9 companies that went through the Act Tulsa Accelerator. Act Tulsa is accepting applications for their next cohort right now, so I'm sure you can find some information about them online. But we are just so happy to be a part of the ecosystem here in Tulsa and to work with founders who are so inspiring and driven to be doing the work and making economic impact here in our city. I am going to share my own email address as well as, some of Kristen already shared our GEW calendar. She's always one step ahead of us. But again, I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be here today and to be a part of this ecosystem. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's anything that I can support you with.
Thank you so much, Abbey. We really appreciate all that you're doing in Tulsa and throughout all of Oklahoma. And I hope, if anything, this helps everybody realize that we do have, again, a number of resources that are up and coming. Maybe these are new to some of you. And so if they are, I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're sharing them so that people are aware of who is available to help throughout the whole state. So thank you so much, Abbey. All right, next, we're going to get into a little bit of networking, utilizing a really awesome tool from a Oklahoma City-based company. So I would like to welcome Katy Boren, who's the president and CEO of Oklahoma City's Innovation District, to come on. Oh, there you are. So thank you and welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Hi from the Innovation District. Thank you for having us. We're excited to participate in Global Entrepreneurship Week. And Kristen, it's been so fun to see this unfold. We're excited today to have the idea of using this tool to network. And we've got to guide us through it, Dave King, who is the founder and CEO of Exaptive. And Dave is going to facilitate an interactive experience for entrepreneurs today, using the Innovation District's cognitive city called the Nucleus. And using the nucleus, Dave is going to help us connect over the question, what needs does your entrepreneurial community need to grow and thrive? So I will introduce Dave in just a moment. One more note though, that's kind of fun is after Global Entrepreneurship Week wraps up, the Innovation District intends to kind of randomly select up to 3 companies that were developed or advanced through connections made or interactions that happened using the nucleus during GEW, and we will pay for their incorporation. So that's kind of a fun thing we thought we'd do to kind of help network today. And Austin from our team will share his information in the chat. So if you have any questions about how that will go down, Austin can help. So I guess I'll turn it over to Dave King, who will introduce the nucleus and help us spark a great conversation around entrepreneurship. Dave?
Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see the login to the nucleus. And I just posted the URL in the chat. I'll post it one more time here. So it's right at the bottom. And while you guys are clicking on that, I'll tell you a little bit about the way we're going to run this session that is maybe different than other sort of networking things you've been part of. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been involved in a number of startup companies, some that didn't go anywhere, one that grew to 100 million bucks in revenue in 4 years, one that I'm actively working on now, which is Exaptive, that I absolutely love building out. And I love the fact that it helps me get to collaborate with organizations like the Innovation District. And one thing I'll share about that journey is when I started my path as an entrepreneur, I was very focused on the idea. And I was also very scared to share my ideas because I thought I'd get scooped and they'd get stolen. And so I spent time thinking about NDAs and protection and all this sort of thing. And then when I actually started trying to implement my ideas, I realized why the adage is that ideas can be easy and execution can be hard. It's really hard, even with the best ideas, to bring them to life, to actually bring them to life. And the Innovation District is playing a facilitating role to help each of you bring your ideas to life. And the idea of this networking event, we're just going to spend a half an hour now to sort of get it running. But the idea is that over the course of the week, you can continue to use this and it will bring some of your ideas to life if you are so motivated. And that's part of Katy saying that the Innovation District will pay to incorporate 3 new companies that come out of the process that I'm gonna show here. So what I'd like you to do, and this, I see there's a number of people on the Zoom, but I think it's also being streamed via Facebook. Everyone can participate. You log into the nucleus.cognitive.city and go ahead and sign up. And what we'll see is we'll start to see some more people showing up here. So I'm going to wait a few minutes. The goal of this session is not for me just to talk at you. The goal of this session is for you guys to do stuff. So go ahead and add yourself into the system and we'll wait until we get a few more people showing up inside the frame of Oklahoma. If anybody's having any problems getting in, go ahead and post in the chat or just speak up.
I'm that person that forgot their password.
Well, you can do a password reset. So when you log in, it will send you a code in your email. And then you'll need to verify your email if you're signing up for a new time. Oh, there, we're getting somebody. So here's Meredith. Okay, she can upload her avatar in a second. Some more information. Oh, there's Ryan. All right, good. Pretty cool, huh? It's happening in real time. People are coming in. I like your cheers avatar, Ryan. Now, as you're signing up, it's also asking you to put in a little bit of information about your expertise or entrepreneurial interests. And what I'll show you here is that we're actually building a network that you're going to be able to traverse to connect with each other. So let's add in the keywords. So this is interesting. So Ryan, efficiency, hospitality, mobile ordering. Some people are adding things about mentorship, networking. I put some things in here about big data, Web3, collaboration. There we go. Ryan's got a headshot in. Ryan likes the real-time updates. Thank you, Ryan. Oh, this one's interesting. Let's look at this. Tiffany, storytelling, culture. So as you guys are continuing to do this, and please keep doing this, I'm going to sort of tell the story of why I think this is so important for entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur or aspiring to be an entrepreneur is a pretty lonely endeavor. You have to, you have a vision in your mind, and no one's going to love that vision as much as you, and no one's going to believe in that vision as much as you. And part of the hard part of entrepreneurship, in my experience, is sort of carrying the flame of that vision you have and protecting it from the wind, and making sure that you keep nurturing it along. And one of the things that can really help with that kind of lonely pursuit is to realize that you are connected to other people, that while they might not love your idea quite as much as you do, they might really, really like it. And they might be able to add a piece to the puzzle of your vision that you might be missing. There's a million reasons not to start a company. There's a million reasons to think that you can't actually execute on your idea. But part of what entrepreneurship is, in my opinion, is not to have all those answers. It's to be willing to go down the path of trying to chip away at all those reasons and just make incremental progress towards the vision. And if you keep doing that, I think you'll find that the idea actually starts to come together. And sometimes what you need to do is you need to find the other people in your network that can supplement your knowledge with the bits of knowledge that they have that you're missing. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to, one, be able to build a network which can help you find the people that have the expertise that you don't. And we're going to try and make it not just general about expertise. We're going to try and help you focus in on specific needs and ideas for Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma in general. So what I'd like you to do, for those of you that are already in the system, you'll see that there is a button that says add a need. And when you click that button, it'll say create a need. What does your entrepreneurial community need to grow and thrive? So take a couple minutes to think about a problem that you want to solve, or a resource that you want to better leverage, a need that you can that you think is important, and go ahead and enter it in and add a need. I'm going to show you how those needs are starting to show up in our system. And I'm going to take off, maybe I'll take off the users for a second so we can just see the needs that we have here. So people are starting to put in some of the ideas of what they think Oklahoma needs. Let's look at some of these. Connection between large institutions and startups. Intercity collaboration. Willingness to invest. Most rural communities have limited experience with entrepreneurial programs. sense of community, a sense of community where entrepreneurs can utilize the resources around them that they might not be able to develop themselves. Oh, well, that's great. That's exactly what I'm talking about that we're trying to do. So go ahead and add a few needs right through here. Oh, good. It looks like Terry, my colleagues Terry, is maybe helping people that aren't seeing their names. That's great. Oh, here. So look, someone just added something. Access to affordable legal counsel. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that one, but that certainly resonates with me. And I know that a lot of founders are maybe on the technical side or the business side, but not on the legal side. And it's a completely overwhelming thing to navigate. That's part of why we thought it would be cool to help get people started with some legal assistance in the form of incorporation of a company. When I started Exaptive, I didn't know how do I incorporate? Do I want to be an LLC? Do I want to be an S Corp? Do I want to be a C Corp? What do I do? Do I want to incorporate in Delaware? Do I want to incorporate in Oklahoma? Okay, now let me tell you guys the next step of this process. Oh, good. Look, we've got some more stuff. Let's look at this. DEI vetted digital community manager. Yeah, diversity, equity, and inclusion. For those of you that are not familiar with the DEI term, DEI has become cool, but we need to go beyond cool to ensure real equity. I think this is absolutely true. And I think that part of what we're trying to do with these networks is help people understand that diversity improves ideas, diversity aids execution. And that's actually a nice segue into the second piece of this process, which is we don't want to just stop at the needs. We want to actually put in some ideas for how we might be able to address some of those needs. So you'll notice that add a need is only one of the two buttons that's up here. The other one is, oh, well, we're going to get to that for a second. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead. So once you have add a need, click on some of these needs, or once you've added a need, click on some of the needs. Your buttons are going to be a little bit different. I've got some extra admin buttons here, but you're going to see contribute an idea. So let me show you what those ideas look like. Hold on, come back. Idea. Okay. Idea. I have this refreshing and I have to get the ideas in there before it refreshes without them. Okay, so notice that now we've got some light bulbs connected to some of these needs. So technical support, small businesses need help with the small things like bookkeeping, marketing, and branding. And here's an idea about addressing that with some internships. Here you can see that there's a need around connection between large institutions and startups. And there's an idea around how it might be met with the iHub or OSU's new product development center. So what I encourage some of you to do now, and this is going to be something that you're going to get to spend the whole week with. Like, this is not going away. In fact, this is not even going away after it is over. This is what the Innovation District offers to the Oklahoma community. But we really want to get some momentum going over the course of this week. So I think someone just created an additional idea, and look at what's happening here. When you create an idea or contribute an idea, you can link it to some of the other ideas. So it'll get linked to the need that you clicked on, right? If I contribute an idea to access affordable legal counsel, it'll get connected to that. But you can also link it to the other ideas, and you can contribute an idea based on another idea. This is how innovation happens. You know, the idea of a lone genius working in isolation, coming up with an aha moment is a myth. That's been debunked. We come up with good ideas when we connect smaller ideas together. It's an act of synthesis. So let's see if we can get a couple other ideas entered in there. Oh, yeah, here's one. Want to change the world, come change Oklahoma first. Here's an idea about, we looked at internships, mentorship pool organization. Now, let me show you two other items, and then you're going to be able to run with this as you see fit over the rest of the day and the rest of the week. I've shown you how to enter needs. Hopefully you see how you can click on a need to contribute an idea. Okay, that's what that's going to look like. You're going to say if it was inspired by any other ideas and any keywords. So the next thing that you can do is you can propose a startup. So you can basically create a hypothetical company, give it a name, and you can say that this company will execute on some of the ideas that have been in there. Now we're going to get to the rules of how you can win a free incorporation of your company. Let's go ahead and add in the hypothetical companies. Ah, this is interesting. So somebody did that. So Oklahoma Morning Business News. Let's look at this one. Okay, so this just has a name that might be entering more information. And this is linked to Want to Change the World. And now I'm going to show you how you can connect with other people to get feedback on your hypothetical companies. And that's going to be the key to winning incorporation. So there's a view here, viewing your common interests. And after we get done with this part of the session, we're going to add the users back into this view. So let me go ahead and add this back. Oh, I was in the middle of saving. Let me turn off the auto refresh so it doesn't keep doing that. Okay. All right, now we're starting to get all of the things that we really care about in our ecosystem. We've got people, we've got needs, we've got ideas, and then we've got these hypothetical companies. So I can see James Stafford came up with this idea, Oklahoma Morning Business News. Now, I can click on any person and I can get a button that will allow me to connect with that person. I've got a slightly different view than you guys have because I've got these admin features. So let me make sure that I actually get that button for a second. There we go. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like for you when you're in the system. If you click with a person, you're gonna have a button that says connect. And when you click on connect, I'm gonna show you where it's gonna take you. Let me just save this view with the updates. It's gonna take you to a place where you can connect with that person. So you can type anything in here and it's gonna send them an email. So, hi James, I'd love to get some feedback on my startup idea that's connected to the same idea as you are connected to. Best Dave. I'm gonna hit send. So notice that this says message sent, responses will be received in your email inbox. What you'll need to do if you want to get the innovation district to incorporate a company for you is you'll need to follow two simple rules. One is your startup idea, and this is the one, Change Oklahoma, this is the one I entered. This is actually a real, by the way, this is a real idea that I'm passionate about, but I have no time to do because I'm focused on building Exaptive. So anyone that's interested in this, please connect with me and maybe you can carry it forward. Originally, my idea was connected to this idea of, if you want to change the world, come change Oklahoma first. As I was reading other people's ideas, I realized that it also worked quite nicely with this idea of a mentorship pool organization. And so when you create your startup idea, you'll need to connect it to more than one idea. When you create your startup company, you'll need to connect it to more than one idea. And one of the ideas that you connect it to has to not be yours. That is one of, I think, the scariest things in entrepreneurship, is this idea of sort of recognizing that the world can be there to help foster your ideas and not just be there to steal your ideas. And that if you're willing to embrace that notion, you'll find that there can be synergy when these ideas get connected together. And when you combine your thinking, or you combine thinking from someone else's idea, you get something that's better than either of the individual ones. So what we're going to be looking for, what the Innovation District is going to look for at the end of the week, is we're going to look at hypothetical startups that are connected to more than one idea, and they can't all belong to the person that created the startup idea. So we're asking you to reach out to other people's ideas. And if you want some clarity on their ideas, so I connected to Membership Pool Organization. I can see that was created by Austin. I can connect with Austin and I can send him a message to try and get some more clarity on his idea to understand if it really is compatible with mine. And then I can ask him to look at my idea, my startup idea, and say, okay, how would you think about this being implemented? What do you think about it? And that brings us to rule number 2, which is, Ryan's asking, how does the view update for non-admin users? We can actually set up refreshes for non-admin users, but you can also just refresh the page. And I think maybe my colleague might be working on doing some updates on the view. So let me go to the second rule here, which is you create your startup idea and you create your startup and you connect it to more than one idea. But that's not going to be enough to get a free incorporation. The other thing you need to do is you need to solicit feedback. So notice that if you click on a startup node with the little rocket ship icon, there is a button here to provide feedback. And one of the things, if you learn, if you look at like lean canvas methodologies or some of the thinking in latest thinking in entrepreneurial circles, it's really about encouraging you to go out and do your customer interviews and get feedback about your idea. This is a really scary thing. We've designed this to prioritize quantity over quality, and there's a reason for that. It's scary to just get out there and ask for feedback, especially if you have an idea that you're really excited about. It feels precious, and when you ask people for feedback, then they might tell you that it's not such a great idea. So what we're going to do in terms of the free incorporation is at the end of the week, we're going to look at the ideas that connect multiple ideas and that have the most feedback on them. We're not going to judge the ideas based on the ones that we think are, quote, the best. And that's because nobody really knows what the best entrepreneurial ideas are. The VCs will tell you that they do, and they often don't outperform the market. So we're not going to put ourselves in the position of saying The Innovation District is not going to say, we know what the best ideas are. What we're going to say is that the thing we do know is that grit goes a long way. And if you're willing to put yourself out there, if you're willing to connect with lots of people on this map and say to them, my idea is this node, please give me some feedback. And you're willing to connect with somebody else and say, oh, I just got negative feedback. There's an edit button. You're going to be able to edit your ideas. I changed it a little bit. Give me some new feedback. If you're willing to do the work to get people to review your idea, even if most of those reviews are pretty negative, that actually bodes really well for your ability to, over time, shift that idea to something that will be successful. And that's the sort of thing that the Innovation District wants to support and invest and facilitate and catalyze. So I noticed that Kristen sent a message. I challenge everyone to send the nucleus to 3 people or aspiring entrepreneurs to use the tool. It would be great to get more people in there. The other thing I'd mention is that it doesn't have to just be aspiring entrepreneurs. It might be that, for example, we saw something about legal advice. There might be a lawyer, maybe Dunlop Cotting does a lot of work with, the entrepreneurial community. Maybe there's a lawyer at Dunlop Cotting who's not necessarily wanting to start an idea himself or herself, but maybe they want to be in the tool because they'd be happy to provide feedback on some of the ideas. So you can invite not just the entrepreneurs into the tool, but you can invite the people who you think are going to give feedback that's going to be useful. And at the end of the week, the idea, we'll take the top 3 ideas. We'll take the top 3 ideas, not in terms of top, in terms of best, but the ones that have the most feedback on them, because you did the legwork to get the feedback, and the ones that meet the criteria of synthesizing other people's ideas. Those will get free incorporation if you want them. And I think that, like one of the speakers earlier was saying, if we incorporate your startup, it doesn't mean that you have to go quit your job the next day, but it means that you have taken some really tangible steps towards saying there's something I want to do that I think is valuable, that I put out there. And now you've got a name and an entity, and maybe it collects dust for a while. That's okay. But somebody else might see it. You might gain some momentum. You might hit a point in your life when you're actually ready to brush off the dust and push forward. And the Innovation District is here to help you do so. So I'll pause there. Let's see if people have questions, comments, thoughts. I'll field any questions.
Well, Dave, we're at the top of the hour. So if you have questions, how can people get a hold of you?
Okay, here's what you do. We're going to update this view. My node is in here. We're going to make sure that the people are showing up. You can just click on Dave King and say connect and send me a message. Send me a message and say, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the problem I'm having. And then connect with other people and get them to give you feedback on the ideas that you put in.
Thank you so much, Dave. And thank you to the Oklahoma City Innovation District and in your support of getting somebody up and running with their business, like Dave mentioned. It's getting started, right? We just got to get started. And part of getting started is us getting connected. So the last thing I just want to share in the last few minutes, thank you to everyone who joined us today for our virtual kickoff of Global Entrepreneurship Week. I think the biggest thing we can focus on is strengthening our ecosystem. So by using tools like the Cognitive City, by attending events during Global Entrepreneurship Week, you can make those connections with people. You can find that whole list at the bit.ly GEW OK 2021 site. You can see everything that's happening in the area. I believe we're at the point where right now all events are free. So there might be some private events, but everyone is welcome to participate and join. So whether you're in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, or anywhere in between, we hope that you can join a virtual or in-person event this week. Don't be shy. Feel free to show up. And if you need someone to go with, this would be a great opportunity, even through the Cognitive City, to connect with somebody and say, hey, are you going to this event? So find ways to get connected. And we hope that you all have a great Global Entrepreneurship Week here in the state of Oklahoma. And again, you can also view any of the events that are taking place at GEW.co or through the Global Entrepreneurship Network. And there's lots of tools on there. So again, we want to focus on what we can do here in Oklahoma, but remember, you have a whole world of people who are there to help you. So we hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us today for our kickoff event.